I am as old as I am, and I have been here since 1996, working for Nuneaton Borough Council. And as a ranger, and I heard about the HBA. I was going out looking at surveying all these sites as soon as I got there, so I phoned up Sanswood and Tasker, and I said, there's a lovely, fantastic site just over the border of Nuneaton Borough, and orchids and everything all over it. I think we really ought to go out and survey it. The response was, no, we aren't looking for any more local wildlife sites and nature reserves, thank you very much. I know you're not, but I just want to point this out to you, that it's a fantastic place to go and have a look at, and that sort of some things. And the power of data, as everyone knows, I love data. My middle name is Data, my hero is off Star Trek, but other than that, I'll leave it as that. And from Nuneaton Borough, if I saw the resource then, I phoned up. Data is fantastic commodity, fantastic resource to have. Good data, good decision making, good interpretation makes good decision making, is my motto I've used ever since. And from then I moved to Solihull and Solihull over to Warwick. And one reason why I moved from Solihull back to Warwick was because of the Biological Reference Centre and the HBA. It's just found itself, as it were, in 2001 when it was digitised and released onto the world, and everyone went, what the hell is this? And one key thing I keep going on about is the upteen fantastic millions of colours of Phase 1 habitat code means absolutely nothing to the people out there. And I'll come on to that in a minute. So this theme is really about offsetting, but I've walked a bit to include a few other things. And the reminders is that Gina's still got my book, and I want it back soon. It's from Natural Council. I think you've got that one yet. So the quote's not quite right in that book, because I didn't know what the quote was, but it's something like it. But the reminders are, and it's the bottom which I find important, science alone will not save the planet. It's the science in the hands of decision makers that will. And that, when I read that in the book, that's what I suddenly thought, that's what we're trying to do, translate all those 64, 102, whatever colours and symbols there are, into something which everyone can use. But without the HBA, none of this, what we've done here, will be done in a robust manner. And I say robust because I write strategies basically as a county council board person. But my job is to try and get all this data to save wildlife and put it into strategic functions and strategic thinkings. So Warwickshire County Council Biodiversity Strategy, data is the first bit of that. We need data before we do anything else. High quality, up-to-date data. The strategic environmental assessments on the SCAs suggest that environmental data should be around about 5 years old. So when you did feasibility studies, I posed a question in 2000, I think it was 2000, Ken will help because he helped with this one. 2000, was it 4 or 5, I said, I've got a theory, I'm a scientist. I have a hypothesis that we can visit every field and every hedge every 5 years. Can it be sort of done? Everyone went, nah. But the SCA says our environmental data should be 5 years. So that's going to be our baseline. Can it be done? And we tested it out that time using some volunteers and the staff we had. And it came back as saying, yes, we can. Unfortunately, a bit of foot and mouth got into it, I think it was around that one time. But in theory, it could be done. And we're getting there. You saw the maps of up-to-date data. It's all beginning to turn green. That's pretty good. LPA, so Warwickshire County Council strategy is dependent on data, the HBA. The Local Planning Authority, LPA, I love jargon. Core strategies and decision making, you heard about that. It's every single day we use the HBA in a format, either crudely as it is or as an interpretive function of the HBA. Green infrastructure strategy is completely and utterly based on the HBA for the biodiversity elements and even landscape elements of it. The connectivity mapping is based on that strategy, habitat core areas is based on that strategy, biodiversity offsetting is based in that strategy, and strategic biodiversity enhancement areas, theoretically therefore, is based on that area. And ecosystem service analysis, just hot off the press, so again here this afternoon on, will be based in that strategy. So everything the HBA does underpins, you could argue, every decision made on biodiversity in the whole of the Warwickshire, Coventry and Solihull. That's pretty impressive and scary, as Oxford University keeps telling us. Does their work get put into strategy? Yes. I'll go here on that in a minute. Peace to resistance, I think, was actually going to a select committee, an HS2 select committee, and saying, look, survey every field and every hedge in the whole of Warwickshire called Solihull. Ben's green arrows, as they were called, just using the first data set we got back from the University of York, where it's a heat map basically of high conductivity and anything in the, as I say, deep purple, southern side of the block band. Blue, you could argue, is not necessarily so good, I don't know what your hot tendencies are. But other than that, your green arrows is where they'd all join up to. It tells you exactly what it was. And I say that map, I had it for 2 weeks and took it to, been heard this before, took it to Oakley Wood Friends Group and said, I haven't quite got a clue what this means yet, but we got this back from the University of York. An IBM programmer says, basically, I can't put down exactly how Oakley Wood on this one is, we're managing a zoo, aren't we? Because we're in a sea of blue. So, but the white bits in the middle are the bits where we need to do a bit more work to join it all up. Took this to the select committee, showed them Ben's green arrows, and said these are the key points where we need some stuff from. And ever since then, that was October 2014, the inquiry went on for another year and a bit. Coming towards the end of it, Woodland Trust said, yes, we've heard that from Warwickshire County Council. So that map basically stayed in their minds for a year and a half. That's the power of data, isn't it? If it's coloured in properly and interpreted correctly, it's remembered. The GI strategy, as I say, the green infrastructure strategy is where we base a lot of the HBA data from. It is a core data source for the whole of that strategy. And it was written so it could be done at the site, local parish, up to a sub-regional area. So a landowner could adopt it if they wish to, or look at it and make a decision from it. We have HBA data, we have it, it can be done. Despite Natural England and other people's English nations it was then, saying, why are you collecting this data down to a field level? What's the point of it? Why do we need it? He said, because A, we do planning applications, which go down to that level, and B, it's a bitmap and JPEG. If you've got a JPEG and you drill in, you can't see a thing of what your picture you're looking at. If you've got a bitmap and you drill in as far as you'd like, you'll still be able to see the whole picture as it goes. So, HS2, London, Birmingham, how much randomly data do I think I need if I'm going to do ecological flows, by the way, Stephen, wherever you are, if you're going to say what we're going to call it, we went with that, didn't we, Ben? What we're going to call this sort of map, and we said ecological flow. Sounds good. It's based on riverine systems, I think, in America. Ecological flow has been coined for that purpose, but I think we should be able to coin it to mean ecological flow for grassland, woodland, or even wetland. And that's what I used. And the ecological flow terminology was used by Claire Burton yesterday at a signing conference, talking about connectivity and breaking up, because she's seen our maps, and I presented to her in Birmingham, to the whole of Natural England's middle management, shall I say. And they were very impressed by the HBA and everything we've done with it. And actually, 2 months later, the same terminology being repeated back to the internet, national conferences on ecological flow networks. We are getting there. We are influencing the world. And it's taken a long time, though. Overhead of that curve, as it was talked about, we are so far over that curve that people are actually trying to chase up and catch us up in that way, and they are. Staffordshire have got phase 1 data now. Worcestershire have got complete phase 1 data now. It's a different type of coding system, but habitat data, shall I say. Buckinghamshire's got intermittent stuff, there's an Oxford desert. And Herefordshire are working on it quite happily and slowly. Shropshire are working on it as well. So we're beginning to get all that phase 1 habitat or equivalent data for the whole of the West Midlands local record centres. Because we did it and they saw the power of it, they persuaded others to start doing it. It just takes a long time. Don't we know? But with MasterMap, it's a lot easier. So we got the LRCs in the whole of this area. We asked for their data. They freely gave it us because they all hate HS2, arguably. And allegedly, so that's what I should say, been taped. And then we looked at that quality of that data and filled in the gaps with land cover data 2007, government data set. Ben shoved it into this lovely thing called Condatus, which Steve will know about as Bug Life, I think, helped fund use it and definitely did to form it, so it has got legs. And we said, okay, if you wanted to go from south to the north, what routes would the computer suggest a beastie would use to get from south to the north through our patch? Because we can't work in isolation. We can't have just the HPA data saying, here it is, Warwickshire comes to something Hull. Because in the world of various people, and I can always say Natural England, previously Warwickshire is always white. We only have 4% of the West Midlands triple SIs, I think, are in, something like that, are in our area. So therefore, they don't see Warwickshire. It's just white in their way. And yet it's one of the most recorded counties in the country, not just habitat-wise, but also species data since we go to 1974 and before. And this popped out. And we like this map. Why do we like this map? Well, it's pretty obvious why we like this map. Because if you're a grassland species, where'd you go? Whoa, that's nice. If you're a woodland species, oh, where'd you go? Oh, hang on this side, oh, where? This is Bristol, by the way, in case you don't know now, so no wash. So we actually bought the whole map data unknowingly, because literally I just said, HS2 runs from here to here, what data do we need? That square will do. Bought that data, put it on a background map, and went, did we get that much? Oh, yeah. For £3,000. Thank you, HS2 Watch County Council budget. It's fantastic what it does. And we presented this to Natural England, and it did cause some shockwaves. We then took out HS2 routes out of it, and we put their route, what they planned to do afterwards, into it, ran the model again. This flow weakened, this flow weakened, this flow here strengthened, HS2 goes on here in further again. So then they kept on saying that actually HS2 is going to change the landscape and it's going to be a connected corridor all the way from there to there. Yes, but only on a local level, is what I would argue to that. Species travelling from the south to the north won't be using HS2. They may still wish to get there faster because of climate change, but we'll probably come on to that in a while. But they won't be using HS2 to use it. In fact, HS2 will be a fragmentation, and more species there'll be less species flow, one will argue, going to Norfolk on holiday. Less steady, maybe, more Lake District. And the beauty about it is it's got I think it was 80–90%-ish comparative to what we've done as well, for local mapping. So our York hedgerow mapping, this bit conforms 90% to the Condatis one because it uses the same data set, but arguably consistency of approach, strategic approach, nationally down to local level fits. Quite scary, isn't it, when statistics. Ian's children were very happy with that, mathematics, statistics. It shows that there's a great correlation between that and the other. So HPA works. You'll hear more about this in a minute, but I'll just show you. We've actually now, as I say, the HPA is used as a baseline for that. You'll come on to hear more about that in the morning, in the afternoon. And we've used it in public inquiry, which we unfortunately lost. But I'll come on to that again in a minute. Here's the offsetting bit. I told you we'd get on to offsetting eventually. That's what offsetting basically does. It measures the future habitat from existing, put one together, and you find a gain and a loss. Simples. In 2015, we did a pilot, started the pilot 2012 to 2014. Ridiculous to try and test something like this over 2 years, because they had one go at me trying to build version 18.7.3, or whatever we are on at the moment, Excel spreadsheet. It's taken 1.5 years to actually develop and become stable. And then, of course, we apply it. We were the only UK successful biodiversity project, a biodiversity pilot. 6 in the country, 2 of them dropped out because of local authority resourcing. 2 ecologists was crushed, and therefore they didn't have time and effort to finish the pilot off. Others picked it up and did it voluntarily to say, yeah, you have your permission, and would you like to give another £250,000 please to biodiversity offsetting? I think you know what the answer is going to be. Do I have to do it? No. Thank you. Whereas we did it mandatorily voluntary. We said, okay, we're using this to measure biodiversity gain and loss at the NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework, sorry. and therefore it looks like your development's going to have a biodiversity loss. Therefore, that's against NPPF. Therefore, you need to compensate for it. And look, there's a way of doing it. If you want to do it this way, you can. If you don't want to do it this way, it's completely voluntary, but show us how you're going to do it. And they went, what other way is there? There isn't. All right. So far there isn't. But only in 2015-16 did we get our first offsets come through the planning system. So the ones we agreed to in put in Section 106 planning obligations in 2012 even have gone by the sell-by date. They've only planning applications over there for 3 years. Commissions. So only 2015 did we start getting stuff in. And did we get stuff in? We did get stuff in. We got 2 schemes going through the bank. And we got 2 schemes which were breach of their Section 106. They started ground clearance without meeting their Section 106. So they had to pay up. So we either got 104 now plans into the county council coffers for offsetting in that 1 year. Totally we had, what, 258k basically last year. This year, I haven't done the calculations, but I think we're already up to 100 and something in the first couple of months. So, is it going to continue? We hope. Well, we hope so. It's embedded into our core strategies, so it will continue in that sort of sense, unless the government turn around and put a foot on it. And I don't think they're going to do that. Well, I heard yesterday. In fact, government would like to roll it out, but waiting for the dust to settle for the negative feedback we got from it. So that's brilliant, isn't it? That out of nothing, we may be getting at least 250k a year into improving the green infrastructure. It's going to take time, but it's going to come. And it's all based on this wonderful data. It is all based on the HDA. How far-sighted were we in 1996 or so when we started this off? Did anyone think it would ever be used in this sort of way? Well, obviously not. I did. You did. So you knew about offsetting. You knew about biodiversity offsetting by then.
But especially at the time we were actually recording habitat destruction basically.
Yes.
And so there needed to be a mechanism by which you identify how that could be reversed. And this was the way we did it.
And because we wrote the GI strategy based on all this, I went to SWAPO, which is Consolidated Corporation Association of Planning Officers, and I said, you asked me to write the infrastructure strategy in the first place. I said, look, there's this funny thing called biodiversity offsetting. That's expression of interest to my deadline is this Friday, and it's Tuesday today. Do you want me to go for it? And they just went, yeah, it's a good way to implement your green infrastructure strategy. All right, Dave, yes, please. So that night I wrote the expression of interest, pinged it internationally, and heard a couple of months later that it had been successful. And then I wondered, what's biodiversity offsetting? Because this is what the data suggested, as you said, Ian's quite right. These would be our core areas. This sort of colours our strategic area where we want stuff going, semi-strategic is this. So core areas are here, Princeton Woods, etc., from Woodlands. That's where we have 20 hectares or more woodland in the 1 kilometre squares. This is 5 to 19 hectares in the lighter green, and the white is where it's no good to man the beast, as my dad would have said. It's where there's less than 5 hectares of woodland in those squares. So it clearly shows you where we have our core areas, core strategic areas, etc. Grasslands, boy, if you can see the dark colours, you'll do better than I am. So basically our grasslands are shot in habitat size-wise. Connectivity-wise, roads like verges, etc., looks a lot bit better, connected-wise. But we therefore do not have the service stations along those routes. To go back to the Lawton port, there's a huge breakage, fragmented corridors between the very, very few sites we've got left, core areas that function, all based on science. So optimism next 20 years, because that's what I wanted to focus on. So optimism, that's fantastic. Opportunities, one could call it as well. I'm going to start off with a decision against the County Council and Stratford District Plan last week when I was up in the Lake District. So I formulated my response by walking over to Grasmere. The inspector went straight to avoid an unimproved meadow to compensation because it was overgrazed by horses. Therefore, he's an opinion, it was going to be lost anyway, so let's just destroy it now and secure some compensation. I think that's a clear breach of the mitigation hierarchy set in 117.180 of the NPPF, and I'm deciding what to do, where to go on that one. But what if, for the CAP reform, CAP that just come out, Common Agricultural Policy just come out, and it's stayed the same where it is with the HLS type funding at the moment. And I heard her say, well, what we were pushing for is an ecosystem rewarding system. Whereas if a landowner manages land for some ecosystem service, then they should be rewarded for that, an incentive type approach, not a lottery, where do I have a particular site on my land here, have some HMF funding. And therefore, all the HMF funding is now going to go towards the management of those declining SSIs. What if we reward farmers for the ecosystem services they deliver? So for biodiversity terms, if they have an unimproved meadow on their land and they're managing it, then if a distinctiveness score is 6 and they get therefore £10 for a 6 category habitat they have on their land and per hectare, I say £10 and I've made it completely wrong, and they've got 6 hectares of it, they get X amount of money for that valuable habitat that apply to hedgerows. Therefore, every farmer in the whole of Washington, Solihull or wherever will get whatever money for the resource they are managing properly. One could argue. Would that be good? I think CLA and NFU were supportive of such approach, or relative supportive approach. So what if, now if it is Brexit, if we are out, and we can now choose the way we give money to farmers, etc., is there an opportunity there to actually reward farmers and landowners for the services delivered, for regulatory functions, for flooding? If they do something good, they get some money for it. Not a lottery of who should we give it to today, but actually a flat rate throughout the whole lot. Discuss. It's amazing what you think about when you go over to Grafton. Highways England yesterday, this was written last night in the slides, at the SIEM conference yesterday on transport infrastructure, fragmentation. Highways England gave a presentation to say that they've used the depometrics to value their estate. Something we've been talking about for Warwickshire County Council for the last 2 years. We now have a mechanism of valuing our estate and therefore measure net gain or no net loss. Interestingly, I love it. Highways England have a target within their strategy that they're going to have no net loss on their roadside on their verges, the estate they manage, soft estate as they call it, by 2020. They aim to make a net gain by 2040. I thought that's an interesting philosophy there. They're going to meet a net gain for 20, then think about it and go, oh, that was good, wasn't it? For 20 years before he puts another cowslip in and say, look, I made a gain now. I thought surely they could make a gain the next year if they made no net loss. But interesting. I didn't ask him what the philosophy on that one was. But they're beginning to see the biodiversity offsetting metrics and the distinctiveness scores per polygon. So I said to them after it, we survey every field and every hedge every 5 years. If you work in partnership with us, like you get the data, species data from us, you get habitat data from us, give us X amount, say £2 grand a year, we'll probably survey the whole of the land if you want, if you're reporting every 5 years. Could be £5 grand, could be. If you join a partnership, an HDA partnership for X amount, that's got to be cost savings than sending an ecologist out there, or even someone looking for Google Earth, everything. So I'm warming up Highways England to join the partnership. We're also looking at working with Natural England on biodiversity species offsetting, PS, not the working model currently. We're looking at using HBA, we're looking at finding hotspots for great crest newts or different types of bats to find out where are they going to be, what planning decisions need to be made there, what planning decisions could be made there, where offsettings could happen, as well as hopefully protecting the species in that location. But offsetting could happen to create a bat habitat in places so that the species' favourable status is secured, as well as the individual. I want my cake and I want to eat it. arguably not necessarily the working model, but maybe something different based on science. So the HBA is fundamental, the really species data we have, at testing this out. We'll definitely have a word about that in a little while. So the optimism, as I'm running slightly over time, there it is again. The opportunities with the HBA are indeed endless. We are influencing Europe, you'll hear about that in the afternoon discussion. So we are world leaders, not just England, UK, we are world leaders. And we go to, and I have been to international special conferences celebrating the HBO and what it is, and China and people are interested. Last week, America came over to see how we do it. 2 years ago, Tokyo came over to see how we do it. And they look at this and go, this is fantastic, this is amazing. And it can easily be done for how many thousand, for whatever pounds a year. The cost benefits are absolutely immense. And the reach we have internationally is also fantastic as well. There we go, I thought I'll get bigger, just the local side. Word of warning, neighbourhood plans, Kyneton neighbourhood plans just wiped out on the Word and Coos Meadow for planning permission. So it's important to still do that local stuff, but also guide international. Thank you.